How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading whether the price is going up or down. Over on Bitcoin, we are trying to push forward. We did mean to switch to Dixie though, so that is where we're going to start. I was jumping around a little bit before I started. So we did push forward. We did get our breakout. That was positive. We did retest that 300 EMA. Remember, usually Dixie and Bitcoin can act inverse, but lately they have been acted more correlated. That could be due to the news that we may see rate cuts. So I would watch for a break of this 300 EMA. If we're going to stay inverse, then Dixie would break this and crypto would push up. If we're going to stay correlated, we would see them both drop if we broke this. Our VWAP is pretty flat. RSI does want to pull back. Stochastic is pushing forward. We have that blue above orange. Momentum is gaining strength. And the money flow is doing pretty decent. I would watch for this to continue over the next several days. Over on Bitcoin dominance for the daily, we do have our fixed range volume profile. We are running toward the top of that fixed range volume profile, like we said could happen. Remember, that doesn't mean Bitcoin has to run up. We did see Bitcoin lose compared to when we started pushing forward here. So this just shows that Bitcoin will hold its value better than total or our altcoins in this case right now. When you see this reverse, then usually the opposite is true. So over on our total, we are trying to push forward. We are starting to roll away though. So I would watch if we break back into this golden pocket, we could see the breakdown of this channel. And that breakdown here, if I can get that where I want, could still break us below that 602. Remember, we wanted to push that 674 and hold above it. Momentum is starting to round. Stochastic is pushing down. We have orange above blue. RSI is dropping as a result. VWAP is pushing down. Momentum's rounding as a result of that. And money flow does want to weaken. So if that VWAP continues to weaken, we're likely going to see a continued drop in our altcoins. Over on Bitcoin futures for the daily, we did fill our gap a little bit today, like we said could happen. So I would watch if we continue lower. Remember, we said if we continue lower from this point, then we could drop and fill the gap below us. There is a positive note if we do that, because that would create that higher low. Then we would still have a slight gap above us to create a higher high and try to break that 69K like we said was a possibility. If we see that, we would run forward. Momentum is pushing up. RSI is starting to curl away. I would watch. That stochastic is bullish, but it is pretty maxed out. It has been maxed out for a while. Our VWAP is starting to pull back, bringing momentum starting to round. So watch that VWAP. If it breaks that neutral, momentum will head down and we will break down. That would cause that money flow to reject and a further downswing on futures. So over on the 4 hour here, we don't quite have the gap that we created on the daily, but that daily gap is stronger. We could try to push forward if we hold this EMA, but if we see a break of this EMA, then we would likely continue lower. Momentum does want to round with a double green dot. RSI is pulling back. Stochastic starting to drop. That VWAP is struggling to hold above that neutral. So if that VWAP continues lower, momentum will break down. Money flow will sell off. And we would see futures start to drop away. Over on the 2 hour, we do have that gap there. So you can see on the daily and the 2 hour, RSI is dropping. Momentum's rounding with the red dot, suggesting it wants to continue to drop as VWAP tries to break neutral. If that VWAP continues to push down, money flow will break down and momentum will continue to weaken. We would see price action react negative then. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic is dropping away. We do have that orange above blue, so I would exercise caution. That could give us a bearish break. Momentum does want to round with the red dot as VWAP is trying to break down and money flow is breaking bearish. So overall, we do look like we are starting to favor more bearishly. If this does not reverse soon, it's likely we will push to fill that second gap. And remember, that would be ideal because we could push up, fill this higher gap, and then continue with higher lows and higher highs to give us a bullish trend forward. Over on Bitcoin for the daily, we are starting to see some bit of a retracement, so I would watch if we continue to drop. We likely would drop away, filling that gapped area on Bitcoin as well, because remember, futures does bleed Bitcoin. Momentum does want to round, stochastic is starting to drop, VWAP is pulling back, RSI is dropping, money flow is breaking down. Overall, we're not doing too great on the daily. Over on the 4 hour, we did run up pretty quick, and now we are retracing quick. We are rejecting that EMA. If we continue to reject that EMA, it's likely we would push to our next second lowest EMA, and then potentially break that, and we could have a pretty quick downswing to that 65K, because that's where our third EMA is. RSI is dropping, momentum is weakening, that stochastic's pretty beat down. VWAP is struggling to hold bullish. Watch that VWAP close. We currently have lower highs with lower lows. This could create a bearish environment to bring momentum lower and cause that money flow to break down as well. Over on the 2-hour here, we are trying to push forward, but overall we are starting to struggle. I would watch if these highs and lows start to connect. We could create a rising channel. We don't quite have one yet, but remember, a rising channel would break you down. Right now, this could be a bullish continuation, but that would be provided we can continue making higher highs and higher lows. Right now, the highs aren't that strong, but the lows are trying to become higher. We could form a symmetrical triangle if this keeps on happening, but I would watch that, or a rising triangle, sorry. Symmetrical triangle would be where the highs and lows are the same. Here, the highs are together, and the bottom is the slope part. So that's where you get that rising triangle that could break you lower. Our stochastic does want to drop away. RSI is starting to drop with it. Sorry, I'm watching the stream. Looks like there's no one viewing, but it shows views. So if you're with me, drop something in chat. VWAP does want to break down. Momentum is starting to round away. Money flow is starting to break down as well. So I would exercise caution. If we continue to see VWAP pull back, momentum will break down, money flow would break down, and we would see the higher time frames start to weaken. Over on the 1 hour here, VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory. Momentum does want to round with the red dot. Stochastic is breaking down with orange above blue. RSI is dropping, and money flow is weakening due to the VWAP pulling back and momentum rounding away with that red dot, suggesting momentum does want to try to flip toward that neutral and push into the bearish territory. So over on graph for the daily, we did see a pretty quick drop down. So I would exercise caution. This could create a double top. A double top would bring you lower. You have a rise, a drop, a rise, and then you would have another drop. And then you would measure from your rise to your neckline. That would give you your drop, possibly breaking that resistance area. We can draw that with our horizontal line or our trend line, and then draw another one here. Bring that down, apply that to the neck, and that would give us a break toward that 15.72. Momentum does want to round. We have a red dot. RSI is dropping. Stochastic is weakening. VWAP is struggling to hold bullish. So I would watch if that VWAP continues to get these lower highs and breaks for a lower low. Momentum will break down and money flow will follow. That would result in us starting to sell off. And would watch, we did push toward that 300 EMA. We did reject, and now we're trying to break below our EMA band. So this shows how that bigger EMA, that 300 EMA, the black line, could end up breaking you into a further bearish trend if you're not careful. Momentum is pushing down. VWAP is favoring bearish. Our money flow does want to pull back. RSI is starting to drop, and the stochastic is favoring bearish overall. Over on the 2 hour, we are breaking our 300 EMA here as well. Remember, if we start to break this on lower time frames, then we're likely going to continue to drop, and we won't rebound to the higher time frames 300 EMA to continue forward. Momentum is favoring bearish. VWAP is breaking down. Money flow is bearish. RSI is dropping, and the stochastic is pretty flat. If that RSI continues to drop, we're likely going to continue lower. Over on the 1 hour, we did try to break that EMA. If we continue lower from here, that would be positive for us because that would leave us with two gaps to the upside. So if we do see some short-term losses, we could end up retracing and filling those gaps. We also have a long lower shadow though. So I would watch if we get a strong green candle. If we do, then we would push forward and attempt to fill at least these local gaps. And if we can hold above that red EMA, that's where we could fill our higher gapped areas. So VWAP is favoring bearish. Momentum is dropping. Money flow does want to reject. Overall, I would watch if the next candle is red, we could see some continued losses. Over on Ankr for the daily, we are pushing down to our support area of our 3079. Momentum does want to round. We do have a red dot suggesting it wants to pull back as that VWAP starts to break down. So I would watch that VWAP closely. If it continues to pull back, momentum will cause money flow to start to round away, and that will show that we are seeing more selling pressure. Stochastic is dropping. RSI does want to pull back, so overall I would exercise caution. Over on the 4 hour here, we do have a indecision. We keep trying to push up, getting rejected, pushing up, getting rejected. I would watch if we continue to see this wave downwards, we could form a bearish continuation. That bearish continuation would end up dropping you lower. Momentum is bearish. VWAP is struggling to hold bullish. I would watch if that VWAP rejects here. We will see momentum reject and money flow will continue to weaken. Stochastic does want to round. RSI is pulling back, so overall I would exercise caution. Over on the 2 hour, we are starting to round away. Stochastic is starting to round as well. That does want to bring RSI and price lower. VWAP is pushing down, momentum is rounding, money flow is in the bearish territory, so I would watch that VWAP close. If that VWAP breaks down and breaks through that neutral, then can't get back above it, we will see momentum round away, money flow would break down. However, if our VWAP makes a higher low, we could see a bullish trend form, and that would help push momentum higher, and that money flow could then break bullish, so watch the 1 and 2 hour very close. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a gap forward. That gap forward could end up pushing us up. We do not have any other gaps besides that one. We do have another one around that 33.25. So if we do fill this first gap, break above those EMAs and hold, then we could push to the second gap. But I would watch. VWAP is pulling back. We do have a consistent low. If we reject for a lower high, momentum will break down. Money flow would break down. That 2 hour would go from indecisive to bearish, and we would see continued losses. Over on XRP for the daily, we do have an indecision candle, so I would exercise caution. Stochastic is pretty flat, RSI is flat, momentum is pretty flat, VWAP is struggling, and money flow is struggling as well. Over on the 4 hour, we are starting to round away. Stochastic is starting to drop down. We have our orange above blue. That does give us a bearish cross that wants to bring us lower. RSI is dropping, momentum is rounding, VWAP is pulling back, and the money flow is starting to sell off. So I would watch that VWAP close. If it breaks that neutral, momentum will round away and money flow will follow. That would start to weaken the 4 hour and the daily. Over on the 2 hour, Stochastic is dropping down. We do have that orange above blue. RSI is dropping, momentum is rounding. We have a red dot. VWAP is breaking down, and money flow does want to drop down as well. Over on the 1 hour, our momentum is rounding away. Stochastic is dropping. RSI is falling. If this continues, we will see price action continue lower. VWAP is holding heavy in the bearish territory. And if that does not reverse soon, momentum will continue lower and money flow will break that neutral, and we will see a continued sell-off. Over on ALGO for the daily, we do have a potential double top here as well. So I would watch that's that rise, drop, and remember that would break that neutral area, that would break that 1350, and then that could possibly push us lower, so I would exercise caution. Remember, our next support is our all-time lows, so that would push us back around that 12-cent area. Stochastic is dropping, RSI is pulling back, momentum does want to weaken, VWAP is pushing down, and money flow does want to break down, so watch the lower time frames. If they continue to favor bearish, we're likely going to reject lower. Over on the 4 hour, we did struggle to hold that 300 EMA, and we are continuing to drop. If this does continue, we're likely going to continue lower, so I would watch those lower EMAs on the lower time frames. If we break those, we're likely going to continue to break this band and see a drop down. RSI is dropping away, VWAP is favoring bearish, momentum is breaking down, and money flow does want to pull back. I would exercise caution. Again, watch these lower time frames. If we break the 300 EMA on the 2 hour, we're likely going to continue lower, break that EMA channel, and continue to drop. RSI is starting to drop away, Stochastic is rounding. VWAP is trying to break bullish, but rounding back, so watch if we reject the neutral again with a lower low. If we do, momentum will favor bearish, money flow would reject, and the higher time frames would start to break down. Over on the 1 hour, we are starting to break our 300 EMA here, so I would watch if we continue to break. We will see further losses from the double top possibility. Our Stochastic does want to drop down, RSI is falling, VWAP is breaking into the bearish territory, momentum is dropping as well. We have a red dot due to the VWAP breaking bearish, suggesting it does want to deepen in the bearish territory and bring money flow lower, which would break price action lower as well. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night.